All right, what a ride. Guitar Techniques magazine is closing after 30 years of in-depth tuition from some of the world's greatest guitarists. So a magazine that we both have looked at over the years. I know we've all picked up couple copies of this, right? It was always a great magazine to like, all right, oh, this lick is in this song. I want to learn this lick. And I think obviously 30 years ago, just think about where the internet wasn't. I mean, it was around, but like there was no great tabs online. So I feel like these magazines became a great source for stuff like that very early on.
Yeah, it was a great resource. I mean, I even have myself have like a collection of
I do.
of magazines, and it's what I actually what I did is like well, most of it's, there's some cool articles to read, but as far as kind of moving around and whatnot, it's like, well, how do I condense this? So I just went and I like cut out the lesson pages out of every magazine, and then I have like a binder full just there.
Okay.
They're tabbed out or notated out, licks and ideas, and it's a great resource to like
for sure
learn little ideas.
I would have Ryan, who we both know, or obviously, take pictures of magazines and books and then compile them all into folders for me because I love digital more than paper. So but I again, throwing away some of these magazines sometimes, you're just like, well, I really want this article, but I don't want to keep this piece of paper for the next 30 odd years. So
right
now, one of the main reasons let's say it this way, the magazine industry as a whole is just going downhill. Newspapers are doing the same. They're limiting releases. They're only releasing in certain places, major cities and whatnot, because selling in print is just not as popular. So they're going to an online model, I guess would be the best way to say it, which, I feel like that's where the world is continuing to go.
I mean, it's been going that way.
It's gone. Let's say it's gone. Let's not say go. Let's not say go. All right. Today's my first day understanding what the internet is. But no, I think we were chatting a little bit before where it's like we're doing this in all areas, and I wonder if it's ruining the networking that musicians used to do. We used to go to local guitar stores and chat about shit. We used to do all these more community-driven things.
I see what you're saying. I think there's kind of an interesting. How would I say it? Like an evolution of kind of that problem. I think it started off that way, like the internet, and not just for musicians, but like for tons of different people, different professions, and even just hanging out in general. Like, how many times do you just go to the bar to meet people now? You probably never, right? You're only going to go with a friend.
Yep.
But I think it kind of like dropped off. Like people started kind of isolating a bit because of the online presence and social media and shopping on Amazon and whatnot. But I think there's kind of a bounce back now that we're in the early phase of people using the online gathering spaces to coordinate meeting in real life.
Seems like we could just skip a step and all be in real life all the time. And as two people that are online chatting right now,
Well, what I think happened was with the advent of the internet, and this is just me postulating, but with the advent of the internet and social media and all that stuff, I think those sources of information of where to gather in the physical world kind of went away.
Yeah.
Like those bulletin boards or,
Yeah, bulletin boards are dead.
Yeah, like those have gone away. So the new bulletin board is the online space.
Yeah.
And so you join a Facebook group or, you follow an Instagram page of this cafe or something that does open mics, things like that. Instead of just seeing, hey, come to this spot, do this thing on this physical bulletin board at a music store or something.
Well, it goes to the internet brought us together, and now we're farther apart. It brought us into these groups, and it made like, hey, I like guitars with 5 strings only, and it made that into a group. Now the 6 string, now the 6 string people hate the 5 string people, and they never meet up in real life and understand that they're both playing guitar. They're just treating it different ways.
And the algorithm only feeds the 6-string people news about 6-string guitars, and 5-string people news about 5-string. Yeah.
So it just continues to build that world. I guess there's pluses and minuses, right? Like as communication gets better, I'm sure. Going back to Guitar Techniques, you would think by them not having to do actual print, it's going to lower their costs.
Right. The overhead would,
Yeah. So then you would think that you could reinvest that into better articles, more guest spots, more this, more that. I don't know. The whole world is moving.
Just declines,
Yeah. Yeah.
There's that possibility too. I mean, there's a reason that they're closing down the physical version of it. Like, they don't have as much revenue as they used to.
True.
Which means they probably don't have the ability to, even as it is, they probably don't have the same amount of resources to do the things that they used to be able to do.
Yeah. No, because I feel like this is a really good magazine. Again, it's one of those magazines that you could see a player that you liked on the cover. The covers were always interesting and engaging, and you'd pick it up for that reason. Like, even looking at a couple of them, I mean, Mark Knopfler. Yeah, I always pronounced the name wrong. Like, great Jeff Beck. I mean, Dream Theater. All of these, these are great magazines to pick up, and maybe a kid seeing somebody with cool hair, they'd pick this magazine up and go, Brian May has really cool hair. I want to copy him, or whatever grabs your attention. You become a little bit of a silo. So, the question is, will they be able to continue on with their model in an online form? Will it be as successful? You and I have worked on this quite a bit with our own website, musicbythemeasurespro.com. Like, what's that balance of, we're trying to create great resources, but we're also trying to pay some bills. How do you make this all work out?
That's the big question. That's the adaptability problem.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, can you take this old model and reconfigure it to fit this new space? And I would say, for the most part, people and businesses fail at doing that. It's very few who have succeeded, but the few who have succeeded like in spades. They've just blown up. I mean, the obvious example that comes to mind is Amazon. It was just a little online bookstore
for sure.
For a bit, that was frankly dying.
Yeah.
When suddenly it switched its model and became one of the biggest enterprises in the world, right?
So it was funny when Amazon was maybe not just starting out, but starting to get decently popular. I had a friend that bought or leased a building and opened a bookstore. A physical book. That was my response as well. I actually went there and helped them paint because I like doing shit like that. But it was kind of like, you guys are doing what? You're selling this, and this is when Amazon, I think, was just books, and so their idea was, well, and they're good people and nice people, but it's just like, you're literally investing in the old model in a town that can't support that.
You were not reading the writing on the wall.
Yeah. Which is funny because it was a books. You should have said.
There was a lot of writing in that store, probably.
Yeah, there was.
What they needed to do is read a couple of their business books that they had.
Probably business marketing, going like, this online shit. And I think they tried to do online. Actually, I think they probably even sold through Amazon. I know quite a few book companies were doing that in the beginning. I do think a lot of YouTubers, so moving guitar techniques and guitar world into more of a digital platform. There's a lot of guitarists that have musicians, not even guitarists. Drumeo exists. They do a really great product of drum lessons. Funny thing is, though, so they used to market that they had over 15,000 songs in their library. They cut that in half.
Whoa.
So I have a good friend. Hopefully he doesn't watch this because he's not a good friend. He's just a friend. I find that funny. And
all your friends, though, then none of them are
fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. You're now on that list. You're just a friend. You're an acquaintance. But no, he woke up one day not knowing that they changed their library, and he had half of his songs from his set list gone. He's a drummer that plays in a cover band. Yeah. And I don't think Drumeo ever had rights, or if they did, it's actually probably the same problem that YouTube had. I think it was Warner, probably somebody else who owns Adele and Bob Dylan songs. They're suing YouTube right now because they don't have the right copyright stuff right now.
Oh, jeez.
So it might have been the same thing where they had to pull off half their list because they're in dispute for it or something.
I don't know how I feel about this copyright thing. Like, artists need to get paid for what they create. For sure. But even with this copyright protection, like, the amount, for example, musicians are getting paid now with all these streaming services, which have the proper rights to everything, like, is peanuts. Yeah. So like, something about the model is very broken and it's very not working. Yeah. And the copywriting is like weirdly restrictive in ways that don't necessarily make sense, to me, especially with the thing like copywriting melodies and people trying to copyright, even nowadays, some people trying to copyright harmonies, which has always been kind of like off the table. But I mean, how long do how many things do you copyright before like you prevent creativity now, like
a great story that we've talked about before. George Harrison wrote "My Sweet Lord" was a ripoff of a Chiffons song, and he didn't know that he ripped it off. So he wrote this whole "My Sweet Lord," great song. Yeah, it's "My Sweet Lord." Got sued for it, and it hindered him writing more songs.
Yeah.
So
now you're having to think about that.
Yes, but 25% of the Beatles, in my mind, one of the greatest songwriting groups of all time. I think we can agree to that to a degree, right?
I would agree with that.
So you had
listen to them and don't enjoy their music doesn't mean I don't appreciate their
exactly. So you have 25% of that group going, I don't know if I ever want to write a song again because I don't know if I'm going to steal something.
Yeah, I am.
You hindered his creative process by that.
Yeah. Now I'm slowly turning into a fairly anti-copyright as far as music goes, anti-copyright person. Like I think something needs to be copywritten so that the artist can get paid for their work. But the way that we're doing it is like it's overdone and it's invasive, I would say.
Yeah.
In the creative space.
It would be nice.
We have 12 tones in our scale, our Western scale. Like you can arrange them in a lot of different ways, but sometimes you're going to be inspired by the people that you grew up listening to and that you currently listen to, and you're occasionally going to have a piece of a melody come to mind. You're going to write maybe a great song, but it's going to have a piece of someone else's melody because that's your inspiration. And it's like, well, I think that should be okay, personally.
Yeah. So via the payment thing, there's some companies that you can go after, obviously for like recording rights for a song. You can pay DistroKid like $12 a year to do a copy version. Mm-hmm. They should have the same thing for sheet music. And they do have some companies like that. There's nobody who owns it and owns that space. There's a lawyer you can hire basically, or a company you can hire. I think you can pay $150 a song and then you can have the rights to write sheet music for. Mm-hmm. But it's just like, we can make this, why is this not an online process at this point where it's like, I want to write and sell sheet music and I'd gladly give the artist the cut for it, but let's make this an easy system to do.
Right. Because that benefits everybody.
For sure. But as you just said, if Spotify and Apple iTunes, the reason all these bands have to go on tour right now is that's where they make money. They don't make money off streaming.
Yeah, no, streaming is one of the biggest ripoffs to artists. I mean, I get that. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take back what I almost said. What I didn't say, I'm going to take back.
Do it. I
almost said it was great for the consumer, but I don't think it is great for the consumer, actually. I think the consumer is now overloaded with options in music and doesn't have the opportunity to appreciate music because there's no restriction on it anymore. Yeah. And it's actually the restriction that like, it's like if you eat 24 hours a day, you're not going to enjoy any food, right?
Bet because I could eat for 24 hours and have a good old time. Will I feel like crap? Yeah, but will I love that? Yeah, I will, and I do that.
Do it for a month straight, and see where it gets you.
Dude, that's our lives right now. Our lives in so many ways are bloated, and we do have this it's the anxiety of choice or something like that, where there's just too many options, too many choices. I mean, I have it when I'm like, I'll fall into
decision paralysis. Is that
yeah. When you go to the store and you go look at Cocoa Puffs, and there's 7 different variations of Cocoa Puffs now. Give me the one good Cocoa Puffs. Don't try to give me 7 variations.
Or even the one rip-off off-brand that's cheaper.
I'm fine. I love that. Yeah, I'll always buy the off-brand that's cheaper, unless it's Lucky Fruity Pebbles. That you need to buy original.
Fruity Pebbles, you gotta get the original.
Yeah. I don't know. I do think, like I said, that a lot of YouTubers are taking the place, I feel like, of these physical magazines. You see all these great guys with good, hey, here's this good exercise, here's this good exercise. I think we're getting the same thing accomplished. And
I would even say that the magazine's kind of late to the game. I'm switching up, like they've already been supplanted in the digital space by other people who have been doing it longer, who are doing it now better in more interesting ways. And so, like, even switching over to a digital format, the magazine is behind the times and has been already supplanted by these other creators on YouTube, for example.
I guess the thing that I'd like to talk about is the lack of community that we lose from having these physical locations. Now, I say that, and I didn't go to them a lot either. I didn't go to Guitar Center a ton because guess what? I'd go there. I would literally call Guitar Center up and say, "Hey, do you have this part?" Yeah, we got this part. Drive 15 minutes over there, and they're like, "Oh, we have that part, but it's not in inventory. We can't sell it to you." And I was like, "Well, then you don't have the part." This happened to me 3 different times where I literally said, "Fuck this shit. I'm ordering," and this is terrible, but I said, "Order on Amazon's just easier. I know I'm going to get it the next day."
Yeah.
Talking was.
I think it's actually happened due to some like Amazon existing. I've noticed stores just having less and less stock, less variety, less comprehensive stock, and it's like, well, I get it. You know, you're not doing as well, so you're not stocking as much. People aren't coming as often to buy things, so it's like, why would you keep the same level of stock you used to have, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But now you're also driving your business away because you don't have the stuff that you ought to have. And now I kind of like, it's so much easier to go to Amazon, wait one day to get it than to wait 1 or 2 weeks for you to get it shipped from some other location or something.
And then I have to run back there again. What do you feel like has to change? Or no, let me ask this in a different way and tell a story. So a drummer that I know is searching for a new band. He plays in a current band, and he goes, "I don't know where to meet these new people." And I go, "Well, why don't you stay in your new band and use that as your marketing to go, you know, we play this show with these 5 guys, see if they're interested in your music. Play a show with these 5 guys." And I feel like that happens a lot. It just...
Maybe you should play a show at 5 Guys.
It's a good place. I've ate there once, you know, so...
I've never eaten there.
They have food. So I do think open mic night brings that out a lot, where it's a little bit of a networking thing. And maybe it's just my lack of a personality with stuff like that, where I don't necessarily like talking to people all the time. That holds me back.
That does tend to hold you back. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it makes sense that we're on this digital world because screw it.
Well, and I have a related story. Is I was at a jam session. So on Monday nights here in San Francisco, they have this place called Tupelo, and they've got this really cool jam session every Monday. It's been going on for years, and the musicians who host it are like they're good. They're solid, you know. And I was sitting at the bar having myself a cheap beer, watching them play. And they play for like an hour or 2, and then it's free play. Like you just grab an instrument and go up and jam with them.
Nice.
And you know, I was thinking maybe joining in, but I wanted to just like see how it all worked a bit and whatnot, because I'm kind of a shy person when it comes to performing and just jumping in and playing something. So. But you know, I had this moment where there was an opportunity. It's like I was sitting there, they were on their break, they were just kind of hanging out, the band was kind of hanging out, and I was like, I can go say hi, or I can sit here with my beer.
Now, which one did you pick?
I chose to go say hi, but I had to work myself up to it, you know, because I struggle with that a little bit. But yeah, I just went and said hi. I was like, hey, you know, I basically said, hey, I really, you know, enjoyed your your set. You guys sound great, blah, 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 blah. My name's, you know, Nick, and hi. And then I didn't really get much of a response, and I just kind of went and sat back down.
Oh, shit, really?
You know, and then, like, 10 minutes later, right before the end of their break, the singer comes over and is like, hey, you know, thanks for saying hi, and you know, I appreciate that you're enjoying the show. And then we got talking a little bit, and I was like, yeah, you know, I play some stuff, and then we shared like Instagram details, you know, and so
it's a very cute date that you're describing.
The physical space turned into an online connection.
Oh yeah, well,
tied to a physical space.
Yeah.
So now I know that they're there every Monday, but I know what other shows they're playing, where they're playing, because I can just pull up my Instagram and check on them. if I were to actually start using my Instagram again and posting things, they would see that and they'd be reminded I exist. And then next time I saw them, be like, "Oh, hey Nick, how's it going? Like, I really enjoyed, that little clip you posted the other day or whatever, So there's like, I think what I'm saying is that there's a way now, and I think it's moving more and more and more in this direction of tying the digital to the physical, and using the digital just as that, more like that bulletin board, that place to keep in contact even when you're not physically in contact, and then to facilitate physical contact with people.
Yeah. Sounds overrated.
In those groupings,
Having physical contact with another person sounds ridiculous.
That's so unpleasant.
What it reminded me of was dating, for one, because there's always that meeting period. One other thing that I forgot already, but I wanted to say. Oh, I think everyone wants to communicate how I want to. Well, no, I think if there's a band playing, I won't want to approach them, because if I was that band, I won't want to be approached. I do want to be approached. I don't want to have conversations. So that's an attitude adjustment on my part. The other thing is, when I play an open mic night or I see an open mic night, if I notice something that I like and enjoy, I try to make a purposeful comment of, "Hey, bro, I really liked your finger picking." Like, if somebody has a talent that I can tell that they've worked on and they're good at it, or like somebody who, "Hey, you nailed that song." Try to give one sincere compliment, because I feel like a lot of times we just give, "Oh, you're good. That was good. That was a good song. That was good. Hey, you music stuff good." And I'm like, that's stupid and ridiculous. And I feel like,
what are you supposed to say back to that? Yeah.
"Oh, thank good. I like you good. Yeah, too." It's yeah. I don't know. I think there's a lot of some self-confidence issues in this all. You just have to put yourself out there. Whether it be making that connection. And I do feel like the digital world, yes, allows us to keep in this almost superficial aura contact where we're in contact, but there's nothing wrong with it. It's better than not being, but I feel like there's like all these...
There is a huge downside in it, and it is that if you're not intentional in what you're doing and how you're using it, it can turn into the digital contact can be the only contact.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy, it's so comfortable, and then you forego putting yourself out there and going through the risk and perhaps anxiety of initiating physical contact and actually going, like the trouble of leaving your house and going to a place to see people play, that's actual effort. Whereas sitting on your ass and looking at your phone isn't, right?
Yeah.
So it's, I think it's really easy to fall into that trap, that convenience trap that actually diminishes your overall experiences in life to a screen, right?
Yeah. No, I think there's some real... So every once in a while when I do the drum lives or guitar lives, I'll get some of the same people that comment and watch, and that's kind of fun. And I feel like that's building a relationship, but it's an all digital relationship.
Yeah.
And one of the things has hurt me is I like engage with that person. That won't hurt me. But I'll engage with that person, but I'll be like, "Wait, who was this guy again now? Okay, this is Billy. Billy, he's from New York. He likes this, I'm like, I don't need more communication in my life right now. I enjoy the people watching. I like the comments. Somebody was asking about drums, and I'm like, "Bro, I'm a terrible drummer, so I'll answer what I know, but that's it." So it is weird because...
Well, and frankly, though, like the funny place we can find ourselves in this online space is even if you say you're a terrible drummer, like you're still like a good drummer compared to a lot of people who are checking you out. And you're like, "Oh wow, like how do you do that?" And you're like, "Well, I certainly can't play what this guy plays."
For sure, there's always these levels. Yeah, and maybe that's part of the live stuff. It might just be ego too that holds us back, or lack of ego. One of those two. Maybe the combination, like this pressure system of no ego, 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 no ego. Because the digital world's no different than the live world. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? You play an open mic night. No one's going to throw an egg at you.
And even if they do, like, what, salmonella?
Yeah, I know how to make... I can make omelets. You throw an egg at me, I'll just scoop it off and put it in a pan.
Put your face on the frying pan.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Like that. I don't know. Where do you see great guitar resources? Where do you see them coming from? And then I have a follow-up question, but I'll let you.
I think the answer is simply YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube is and YouTube is very hit and miss, obviously. But I think if you suss out the right people, it's a great resource.
Yeah.
You know, you find the right people, and it can be I think there's a lot of pitfalls to it, and you can't necessarily guarantee the quality. Like, you get this magazine, like, these are some legit people.
Well, you have an editor that's gone through and gone, this is the platform, this is what it needs to look like, this is what you need to accomplish, where I feel like, yes,
it's been vetted. Yeah, it's been vetted.
But
and you don't get that filter on YouTube.
Yeah, but that's also
being vetted.
That's also the nice thing too, because it's not coming this top-down system. It's this, dude, you can learn this from this guy, you can learn that from that guy, and it may not be this thorough output, but it's, like you said, it's hit or miss. The other thing is, so I had a student the other day who's like, well, I really want to get back into the book. And I'm like, okay, all right, this is a student that's just like not learning chords, not learning anything. I want to get back into this book. I'm like, bring your book in next week. We'll get back into it. It's Mel Bay Method Book 1. And I'm just like, this book needs to fucking die. It's not a bad book, but it's just, it doesn't go anywhere. It's playing Mary Had a Little Lamb. It's reading notes, which I don't mind teaching at all, but it just doesn't even do it in a good way. And this book has not changed from 1970. And I don't know, there needs to be a revolution in teaching, I feel, or how we go about it.
Well, I think it's kind of tricky, in the sense that, the other countries kind of have a whole different system sorted out. Like, I remember I was in Prague in the Czech Republic, and I was talking to a guy. We were just at a bar, and I was talking to this acquaintance, like friend of a friend kind of thing. This is the first time I'd met him, but the other friend was there too. And I was saying, yeah, I got this new song I just recorded, and like, I'm checking. He's like, then he asked me about my music history, and I told him, I kind of started playing guitar at like 14, 15. And he's like, wait, what? Like, in America, that's normal. You can like start at 14, 15 and actually like go on to play music.
Yeah.
Here, you start at like 5. If you don't start at 5 and you don't go to like a music-centered high school, and you don't go to a conservatory, you don't do music.
Gotcha. Yeah.
There's not really like a hobbyist mentality, or even that you can be a pro. You certainly can't be a pro if you started.
Yeah.
Beyond the age of 6, or something like that. So there's just, and that's, I'd say that's probably more common than not in the world at large. It's like you get kind of groomed into being a musician from a young age, and you take it seriously, though. That's the key. You take it seriously. So the problem with these little lesson books that you're talking about is like, these are casual learning, for the kid who's going to spend 5 minutes, maybe a week, looking at the stuff, and then never go anywhere with it, most likely. And if that's your audience, and I don't know, like, what the best way to teach that style of learner is. Maybe it's the way the method that you developed at your studio, where you actually just like jump into like strumming chords. And
that's good that's good and bad though too. There's good in that for sure, where you can pull out these ideas. It's the lack of a linear pattern, I guess, or a linear idea of how we're going to learn. You can do that.
What's the path forward over a longer period?
Yeah, and you can do that by, all right, this song has 1 beat the entire song. This song has 2 beats the entire song. This one introduces a fill. So you can get that idea over 15, 20 songs. I say this to a lot of students. Hey, you want to learn strumming? Learn 20 strum songs. You're going to learn enough different ideas throughout that.
Right.
Yeah. And I think the way that you said casual learner is very true. And then if you have an audience that is continuing to buy your book, why would you change it?
Right. It's become a standard.
Yeah. Doesn't mean it's, yeah.
It doesn't mean it's great.
Nope.
It's been around. It's been a standard for a long time.
Yeah, just because it's a standard doesn't mean it's great.
I don't enjoy teaching Mary Had a Little Lamb, but, for one, parents enjoy the structure.
Yep.
Like, they have this book. They have a solid homework assignment. It reminds them of school.
Yeah, no.
It's the same format as when their kid goes to school. And so that's comfortable for the parents. They feel like they're seeing progress, right? there's this clear path forward to them because there's a book.
There's a book 2. There's a book 3. There's a supplemental book 4.
Yeah, I think it might even actually be more for the parents than for the kids.
I would say so.
Being honest,
yeah,
in that sense, because but there's also this element. Like I had some new students recently, and I started off just trying to be like exploratory with the instrument and music, being like, hey, let's just kind of explore this thing, have some fun with it, play around with it, see what you can discover. And they just didn't have that attitude towards it. It's like they just felt lost.
Yeah.
And so then I brought one of those lesson books in, and it's like, oh, this is what I got to do.
Yeah, this is my direction. Yeah.
But they're all trained from our public school system, our private. They're all trained from our school system to be told what to do, and have this clearly defined
worksheet. Here's a worksheet. Yeah.
And an assignment, instead of like, hey, explore this idea on your own, play around with it, have some fun, be creative with it. Like that's not what we teach them. That's not how we teach them to learn. So they don't know how to do that. And if you throw that at them, they're just like bewildered. They're like, whoa, what do I do?
For sure. I had this cute little kid the other day come in. He was 6 years old, blonde hair, mullet, awesome, right? Just rocking the mullet. Had a fucking Anthrax t-shirt on. So
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. But like I didn't have the book for him. And so I did kind of that exploratory thing because I was like, this 6-year-old, also you didn't have a guitar. You showed up to your lesson without a guitar. I get that there's guitars, but I'm like, how are you practicing at home? Which is not the most, and they're like, oh, we have one. I'm like, cool. If I could see it, that'd be awesome. If you could bring it here next time. But with him, I just opened up Guitar Pro and started writing out a tab for him because we have a sheet that you wrote a long time ago, but it's a little bit too advanced for him, even though your sheet is a beginner sheet. This kid is 6. So we literally, we explored what the low string was, what the high string was. We made a song called Turtles, okay? Probably going to be a hit someday, but it just on the second string going 2, 3, 5. 3, 2, these little simple ideas so you can get used to, hey, here's the guitar, here's fretboard, here's strings. I do wonder why, like when you go to Alfred's series of piano, you get 5 books, right? Okay. There's technique, there's theory, there's lesson, there's piano. There's a piano book called Piano, and there's performance. I wonder why that hasn't happened with guitar. Why haven't we moved to a guitar system that has a theory book, a technique book? I know there's cross on all of them, but it does seem interesting that piano has this very thorough output.
Well, I think what you're really pointing at here, though, is the difference between kind of like the classical approach to learning and the more, I'd say, pop approach to learning.
Yeah.
So guitar, the way we think of it, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, it's a very pop instrument. But if you jump over into the classical world, like classical guitar and Allen string guitar, you're going to find more series of books like that.
Yeah.
But that's not what most people are coming to guitar for. Most people come to guitar to strum some popular songs they know or they've heard, and so we're existing in a different realm that is much less structured. Like guitar's been around for hundreds of years. There's this, just like violin or piano, there's a very defined way to sit, to hold the instrument that is, ergonomically healthy and sustainable over a lifetime. There's specific like finger picking technique from the European model. There's plectrum technique from the more Arabic model. Like there's all these very defined ways of playing. But when you cross over into popular guitar, that started like essentially the blues in the early 1900s, and it's just kind of like the Wild West of instruments.
Yeah. It does make sense, though, even how you're pitching that, though, too. It makes sense that these books of piano existed for all this time. And then when guitar's always been popular, but in like the 60s and 70s, it rose to a new, with the Beatles and in this early 60s rock and roll, I feel like that's where these Mel Bay books came out of. This very popular music way of learning it, and, Yeah, I don't know if there's a fix for it. I don't know if I care about the fix for it, to be quite honest.
And that there is a fundamental difference too between something like guitar and piano too. Like you can take a new student to a piano, just grab the standard like early early literature for learning for like the classical approach, and that's going to apply no matter what genre they play.
Yeah.
Now, if you take the early literature, standard literature for the classical guitar approach, like that does not apply to acoustic guitar, steel string acoustic, does not apply to electric guitar, does not apply to slide guitar. Like it only applies to nylon string acoustic, and it's a very specific style of playing. You know, so it's not really the same instrument. I would even say like they're both called guitar, but they're not the same exact instrument, and they play very differently. So. It's just there's this literature for pop guitar, but it's like you said, it's outdated. It's not very well developed. It's boring.
Boring is
and it does lack like, well, how do you get past this certain very introductory level of skill? Like, what do you do once you hit the end of the book and you still don't know much about playing guitar?
Yeah.
And you don't, frankly, like in a lot of these books, you hit the end of it and you don't know anything about, like, you couldn't just sit down and play a 3-chord song, you know?
No, you could not. And you learn maybe 1 or 2 scales, and you don't learn how to move them. You don't learn anything past, but you do learn past the 3rd fret, but students don't. Even if the book teaches it, students don't. And dude, I had this 47-year-old guy come in for a lesson the other day, and he, a lot of piano by ear, and he wants to do guitar, but he's like, I want to read notes. I don't want to read tablature. And I'm like, totally respect, get that. And then he's like, I want to learn Soul Asylum, and I want to learn, I'd Love to Change the World. And I was like, all right, look at this full G chord that they play. You want to see that as regular standard notation. I'm like, dude, if that's how you want to read that, but you're struggling to understand the guitar concept. So why do you have this in your head that you want to do that? What is the result that you want to get? Because I'm like, dude, I don't care if you want to do that, but don't try to learn Soul Asylum. Because there's an easier way to do this.
I have a related story, actually. I have a newer student who's this guy, I don't know, middle-aged guy. And I'm like, in our first trial lesson, I'm like introducing the guitar, and he's never played. Introducing the guitar, parts of it, ideas, and I was like, okay, and this is guitar tablature, and this is what we'll use to so you can take assignments. So I'm going to learn songs and whatnot. And his immediate response is like, oh, I don't want to learn to read music. Like all the cool players that I know personally, like they never learned music. They don't know like notes and stuff. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
I don't know where to go with that.
How do you want to do this?
Like unless you have a steel trap of a memory, like you're not going to remember all the things we cover in a lesson. Well, and this is how I can give you something to remind yourself when you're not here, and so you can practice it at home. And also, like what I didn't say, which I kind of wanted to say, was like, these people who learn by ear and never learn music, like they spend hours and hours and hours a day for years, like obsessed with this craft, with this instrument, and figuring it out. And they did that by ear. Their ears got highly trained to like understand what they're hearing and figure out how to play the guitar. Like that is admirable for the sheer amount of dedication it takes to do that, starting from nothing. Yeah. Like I can't even imagine, like, if you don't have at least a little bit of music ear, I don't think you could start from nothing and achieve that, Like, I don't think I could have done it. I needed some introduction into music before I could be like, oh, this figuring things out by ear is kind of cool. I think I would have been totally overwhelmed. But it's so much work and dedication to start from nothing and like learn an instrument based off of just hearing things. So
why not have a little bit of a background of whatever you want to, right? Like, I won't say that I'm the professional, but in this instance, it's like, I know a platform, I know a way to teach that will help you. Gladly show you long-term if that's where you want to get, that's great. But let's start with these core concepts and build on that. Not skip 3 steps ahead. And I also wanted to be to this guy, I wanted to be like, there's a reason you've gone through 5 different teachers. And it's not just the teachers at this point. It's because you want to learn in this very specific way because you have this in the back of your head that this is the only way to learn. Well, if you don't change that, you will not be able to learn this way. Dude, figure it out. I mean, like if you want to read notes, great, do it. I don't care at all.
So this actually connected me back to the topic we started with the magazine and going online. Where I can see it having a niche that isn't being filled is all these YouTubers. They're really appealing to like beginner, maybe intermediate players, right? But these magazines, these are for more advanced people. Like I even have a page right here, like just with like 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 measures of like of a riff of an idea. I'm like, I couldn't give that to even an upper intermediate player and expect them to learn it in a reasonable amount of time. Like these magazines often have advanced concepts that are fun to learn when you're a good player.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a niche that isn't filled by the YouTube videos. You don't have a lot of
high level
guitar videos out there being like, here's this really advanced thing to play. This idea, like if we're breaking down, I don't know, Aerosmith's song, and like, blah 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 blah. You don't really see that so much, and they talk about like a lot of like the theory of what's going on behind it, so you can really fully understand the concept, and then not only learn note for note, but take that and apply it creatively yourself. Is the whole kind of idea of it. Yeah. So I can see them still being very very useful in that space. Yeah. And then the actual interviews with top players, like if they can keep that coming. Articles and discussions, like that hasn't been supplanted by anyone. I don't think that I can think of.
I'm sure it's out there, but I wonder too if it's like the reason you start a YouTube channel, you start teaching guitar, you go, well, my high level lessons nobody watches. So your low level, right? I mean, like your audience dictates what you're going to release after a while. You go, well, these low level ones.
In real life, how many really high level students do you ever get?
Yeah. I hate high level students. I'm just not good enough to. No, I mean that's a lot of it.
Yeah. I find them challenging in the sense it's like I've had a couple, and what I think is difficult with the high level students is maybe what they're interested in, for one, isn't my area of expertise. Yeah. That's like I had a high level jazz student and I enjoyed jazz, but I don't play a lot of jazz. So I was kind of limited there, and like what new things I could bring to the table. And that's the trick. Like what new things can I bring to the table for you? I can point out like where your technique is lacking. We can fill in your music theory knowledge gaps, like these more advanced concepts. But overall it's like, well, what can I do to help you get to that next level? And that can be kind of a challenge at times.
Well, and their next level is so much more incremental than I can take a kid that knows 0 and bring him to a 50. I can do that relatively quickly. That's not that hard. But taking somebody who's at 98 and you're trying to bring them to 99, that's fucking hard.
It's more like 98.1 is what you're trying to get them to.
Yeah. No,
it becomes so, like you said, it becomes so incremental at the more advanced levels, and the progress happens over a much longer period of time as well.
And you called it out too with the expertise. Like you have developed a skill set, but it may not, like you said, it's not jazz oriented. So it's like my skill set doesn't necessarily fill those holes. Can you learn it? Yeah, you can. Like this guy that I'm teaching. Well, I have to learn a solo for him. Well, that's good, but on the list of everything I want to do this week, that's not one of them.
Right.
I don't want to sit down for half an hour and figure that out, or not even figure it out, just play it from a tab. Right. And then also, I don't like walking into a lesson not having a plan. I kind of want to have an idea of a plan anyway. And so for him, I know he's a little, and I've only had one lesson with him, and I don't think there's going to be that many more. But he wants to bounce around, and I'm just like, oh, give me a 10-year-old kid that I can just be like, here smells like Teen Spirit. Yeah. You like this song. It's an easy enough idea for you to conceptually get. And
right.
Don't make me work. Don't make me work at my lessons. I sound a little lazy, but I'm okay with that too.
Yeah, even an easy lesson is taxing and demanding. I mean, it's if it's a half hour lesson, it's a half hour of like focusing on someone else.
Yeah.
And then you do that back to back for a number of hours. And it's like that's definitely one of the more taxing jobs I've had. And I've had some very like physical jobs.
Yeah.
That left me feeling much more refreshed at the end of the day.
than dealing with somebody else's mind and trying to get them to, yeah. Yeah, oftentimes too, I feel like, you know, we're beating around the bush about students wanting to learn and get pulled up skill wise. You have to look at your quality of teachers too. You know, if you know, I have a lot of deficiencies in my playing. I can point in the right directions quite a bit. I can also recommend like, hey, this is a great song to learn. This is a great song to learn. If you want to be a pro player, I'm not your guy. I mean, I'm working on getting better myself. So.
But you're a great teacher for getting someone started and getting them enthusiastic.
Yeah. I get bored really quickly though. I do. I mean,
it's a big difference though. Like what's funny, between you and me, like you're a good teacher. Like you do bring a good teaching to the table. Maybe not the best player.
Yeah.
I'm a decent player, but I'm not a great teacher. Like I don't have that that part of my brain isn't active, you know, and it's so yeah, it does depend. It's not just skill that's going to make a good teacher, you know. It's something else.
It's a combination of things.